everyone. Welcome to the 23rd Annual Fungus Fair. My name is Sara and I'm the chef here at the Mycological Society. What I'm going to be making for you today is a wild mushroom and thyme gravy with brown butter biscuits. So good for breakfast, nice for dinner with some chicken. So here we have our brown butter. This is made by cooking butter on low heat until you get some bubbles and the milk solids start to caramelize. It gets to be very nutty and that flavor will work really well inside of that biscuit. So with the brown butter and any biscuit really, you want to freeze your butter. What that does is inside of the biscuit, it creates nice pockets of air, which makes it nice and fluffy and flaky. So here I have my brown butter and I'm just gonna grate it with a cheese grater inside. This is not going to be like a normal stick of butter just because you've cooked it before, so it's not going to be very thick like a normal stick of butter would be. So we've frozen the butter to make sure that it's cold because you want everything in your biscuits very, very cold. In order to keep this butter frozen, that gives us nice layers and flakes in our biscuit, makes it very light and fluffy. So here I have 2 cups of flour. I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 pinch of salt, and my butter. I like to make my biscuits with a wooden spoon. I think it's a little less invasive on that beautiful brown butter that we have. So now that I have all that beautiful butter, sugar, salt, and baking powder mixed in, I'm just gonna add 3/4 of a cup of milk. I use whole milk. Some recipes call for cream. I like to use milk. So we're just gonna lightly fold that in. We're gonna make sure everything in here is nice and put together. Again, we don't wanna stir it that much because we want that butter to stay frozen and not agitate it too much. So if your dough is a little bit too floury like mine is, I'm just gonna add just a touch more cold milk. Once it's nice and together, I can go in with my hands. And like I said, we don't want this mixed too much. We're just gonna form it. We're just gonna fold it about 5 to 6 times. If you see those beautiful butter pieces in there, that's gonna make it nice and light and fluffy. So after we fold it a few times, we're just gonna press it out with our hands. You can also use a rolling pin if you'd like. You can cut your biscuits into squares or I have a ring mold right here, which makes nice even-sized biscuits. So we'll just take it like that, put it to the side, put it to the side, and in my opinion, I think it's okay if biscuits are a little bit rustic. I like rustic biscuits. They shouldn't have to be perfect in my opinion. So we're just, with the scraps, we'll put them back together and make some more biscuits with them. So what I've done here is I put the biscuits inside of the fridge because you want your biscuits, like I said before, nice and cold when you put them in the oven so that the butter doesn't melt, and it just makes beautiful flaky texture for these biscuits. So here we're gonna start the gravy. First, I'm gonna put the butter in the pan. For mushrooms, like I said before, I really like to do brown butter. Gives it a nice little layer of flavor. So we're just gonna melt this butter in the pan until it's all the way melted. I have my heat at a medium-high right now. From here, we're going to add our mushrooms. So I have maitake and white beech mushrooms. I'm just gonna leave these on the bottom of the pan, let them sit for about 2 minutes just to get some nice color on them, and then we'll come back to them. So now that we have our maitakes and our white beech mushrooms browning, we're gonna add our chanterelles. These are beautiful chanterelles. You can get them from any farmer's market, or Specialty Produce has some amazing wild mushrooms as well. These are some nice chanterelle mushrooms that we're gonna put in our gravy. So those chanterelles we're gonna cook for about 3 to 4 minutes. And we are also going to add our onions and 2 cloves of garlic to this as well. So we're gonna let this go for about 5 minutes, or until the mushrooms are nice and brown and crispy. We just took these biscuits out of the fridge. They're nice and cold now and ready for the oven. I have my oven set at 450 degrees, and it'll cook for about 15 to 17 minutes. So once the mushrooms are about halfway cooked, I'm just gonna add 1 sprig of thyme. I like to get big branches so that they stick together and they're easy to pull out of the mushrooms. Give it a nice stir, and we'll let that cook for just another few minutes to get some color on these mushrooms. Okay, so now that we have some beautiful color on these mushrooms and they're all the way cooked, smells amazing. You'll know when it's done when it takes up your whole house, this beautiful smell. So now that that's done, we're gonna make a roux, which is a flour and butter. It's gonna be able to thicken our gravy. So I have some flour here. I'm just gonna sprinkle just right on top of all these mushrooms and stir it up. We're gonna wanna cook this for just a few minutes because we need to cook the flour flavor out of this flour. So for about 2 minutes, I'll be stirring it. Right now is when I can add some salt and a little bit of crushed red pepper as well to give your gravy a little bit of spice. This, of course, is optional. Also some black pepper. Now that every mushroom is coated with this beautiful flour, you can smell all the spices and the thyme and the mushrooms, brown butter. From here, we're gonna put some milk. So what it does is the flour is gonna thicken the milk and turn it into a gravy. So here I have our milk. We're gonna pour it in slowly. And the way to know if your gravy is up to its full thickening potential is when it starts boiling. That's when you know that it will not get any thicker and that you've added the correct amount of milk. So sometimes if it's a little bit thicker, you can add more milk. that's what I'll do right now. Really smells amazing in here. The fresh herbs, beautiful wild mushrooms. And we're gonna let this simmer for about 5 minutes, just to get those flavors really combined in there. So we're just gonna give this a little taste, just to make sure the spiciness level is what you like and the saltiness level. Delicious. These biscuits seem to be done. We're gonna pull them out now. Nice and brown, nice and flaky. So I just want to show you one of these biscuits we got. Nice crispy bottom from the cast iron. And look at these beautiful flakes we have. This is from that cold butter. Just gonna flake apart really, really nicely. So here we're gonna plate one. I like to plate the whole biscuit and just put a little bit of that wild mushroom gravy on top. Okay, so if you have a black truffle salt, black sea salt, anything, I like the color contrast on there. It looks really nice. Thank you so much for tuning in to my brown butter biscuit and wild mushroom gravy demo. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you make these recipes at home. And please let us know on our mycological page. We have Instagram or email. Please let us know if you enjoyed them or if you made them at home. I'm about to dig in right now. Thank you so much for tuning in.